Welcome to Value Plays Only, where Basalt Monolith is just budget Thran Dynamo. First up, we have Dan, playing Najeela, the Blade Blossom. This 5-color good stuff pile is packed full of wins. In addition to Najeela-specific combos like Derevi and Grim Hireling, it can win with Thasus Oracle or Underworld Breach. His hand contains an Orcish Bowmasters, Final Fortune, Demonic Tutor, Simian Spirit Guide, Tundra, Thran Quarry, and Polluted Delta. Cammy is playing Tasigur, the Golden Fang. This evolution list looks to ladder Tasigur into massive threats. It plays several infinite mana combos with Tasigur and Thasus Oracle. Her hand contains Hazel's Brewmaster, Ledger Shredder, Neoform, Lotus Petal, Watery Grave, and Bayou. Her London Mulligan is a Peer into the Abyss. Tyler is playing Magda, Brazen Outlaw. This is a rare monocolor tribal combo deck that can piece together instant speed wins with Clock of Omens and any artifact dwarf. His hand contains a Universal Automaton, Dwarven Grunter, Spark Mage, Red Elemental Blast, and 2 mountains. His London Mulligan is a Lightning Bolt. Last we have John, playing Vivi Ornitier. This deck looks to storm off with Curiosity style effects, winning with Underworld Breach. His hand contains the One Ring, Grim Monolith, Gitaxian Probe, Arid Mesa, Seed of the Synod, and Great Furnace. His London Mulligan is Mistrise Village. And with that, let's see some value plays. Dan starts things off by playing Polluted Delta. He pays a life and cracks it, fetching up a Badlands. Dan passes the turn. Cammy plays a Watery Grave, into play untapped, paying 2 life. She casts a Lotus Petal. Cammy taps out for a Ledger Shredder. She then passes the turn. Tyler plays a Mountain for turn. He casts a Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer. Tyler passes. John plays a Great Furnace for turn. He casts a Mox Diamond. It resolves and he discards Seed of the Synod as it enters. John then casts Grim Monolith. Ledger Shredder triggers to connive. Cammy draws a card and discards Eldritch Evolution, giving Shredder a +1/+1 counter. John then passes the turn. Dan untaps and plays a Tundra. He exiles Simian Spirit Guide from his hand for a red and taps out to cast his commander, Najeela, the Blade Blossom. Dan passes the turn. Cammy untaps and plays a Bayou for turn. She casts a Grim Monolith. Cammy then passes the turn. Tyler untaps and plays another Mountain. He goes to combat and swings Ragavan at John. John takes 2 and Ragavan triggers. Tyler makes a treasure and exiles Gemstone Caverns off the top of John's library. In his second main phase, he casts Dwarven Grunter. Tyler follows this up with a Spark Mage. Ledger Shredder triggers. Cammy draws a card and discards Flusterstorm, giving Shredder a +1/+1 counter. Spark Mage resolves, and Tyler passes his turn. John untaps and plays a Steam Vents for turn. Untapped, paying 2 life. He casts his commander, Vivi Ornitier. John pays 2 life to cast Gitaxian Probe, targeting Dan. Ledger Shredder and Vivi trigger. Cammy draws, discarding Finale Devastation and putting a +1/+1 counter on Shredder. Vivi deals 1 to John's opponents and gets a +1/+1 counter. Get Probe resolves, and John looks at Dan's hand and draws a card. John activates Vivi for 1 blue mana. He taps out with Grim Monolith for the One Ring. Vivi triggers to deal 1 to each opponent and get a +1/+1 counter. The One Ring resolves, and John gains protection from everything. He taps the One Ring to draw a card. John then passes the turn. Dan untaps and plays Thran Quarry for turn. He goes to combat and swings Najeela at Tyler. Najeela triggers to make a 1/1 warrior, tapped and attacking Tyler. John tries to convince Tyler to double block the Najeela as John saw an Orcish Bowmasters in Dan's hand, and Tyler's board of 1/1s is not going to survive long anyway. After a lot of discussion, Tyler opts not to block and takes 4. Dan passes his turn. Cammy untaps and delves 2 cards from her grave to cast her commander, Tasigur, the Golden Fang. Cammy then passes the turn. Tyler untaps and casts his commander, Magda, Brazen Outlaw. Tyler moves to combat. At the start of combat, the table again tries to convince Dan to pull the trigger on the Bowmaster. Dan declines and Tyler declares his attackers. Tyler swings Spark Mage, Dwarven Grunter, and Ragavan at Dan. Magda triggers twice and makes 2 treasures. Dan then takes 6 and Ragavan triggers. Tyler makes a treasure and exiles Mystic Remora off the top of Dan's library. In his second main phase, Tyler cracks a treasure to cast Mystic Remora. Ledger Shredder triggers. In response, Dan casts Orcish Bowmasters. It enters and pings off the Spark Mage. Ledger Shredder connives Machine God's Effigy and gets a 1/1 counter. Bowmaster triggers again to ping the Ragavan. Fully blown out, Tyler passes his turn. John untaps and takes 1 from the One Ring in his upkeep. In his main phase, John activates the One Ring to draw 2 cards. Bowmaster triggers twice to ping John twice. John plays Arid Mesa for turn. He casts a Mox Opal. Vivi and Remore trigger. Tyler draws and Bowmaster triggers. John tells Dan he just plans to pass and only casts this to out the Magda. Dan pings the Magda, and then Vivi resolves to ping each opponent for 1 and get a 1/1 counter. John then passes the turn. Dan untaps and plays Verdant Catacombs for turn. He pays a life and cracks it, fetching up a Taiga. Dan casts Delighted Halfling. He goes to combat. Tyler thinks at the beginning of combat and shows John a card. They're worried about a win coming from Cammy and let Dan get his attacks in. Dan swings Najeela and his warrior at Tyler. Najeela triggers twice to make 2 new 1/1 warriors, tapped and attacking Tyler. Tyler takes 6, and Dan passes the turn. Cammy untaps and plays a Marsh Flats. She pays life and cracks it, fetching up an Underground Sea. Cammy casts a Neoform, sacrificing Tasigur as an additional cost. Remore triggers and Tyler draws. Bowmaster triggers and pings John for 1. Tyler knows the counter John has in hand and offers to let John save it for something better if John agrees not to win on his next turn. John agrees and remarks, "There's almost nothing I could draw to win on my turn anyway, except Hullbreaker Horror." Tyler casts Red Elemental Blast, targeting Neoform. Neoform is countered, and Cammy then passes the turn. Tyler untaps and pays for Remora. He looks at the remains of his board and sheds a single tear. John has seen a Braid in Tyler's hand and offers that if Tyler shoots the Bowmasters here, John will feed him tons of cards with Remora on his next turn. Tyler has nothing better to do and agrees, hoping to get back in the game. Tyler casts a Braid targeting Bowmasters. Bowmasters is destroyed, and Tyler passes the turn. In his end step, John pays life and cracks Arid Mesa, fetching up Thundering Falls to the battlefield. John surveils, leaving the card on top. The turn then passes to John. John untaps, and in his upkeep, he takes 2 from the One Ring. He plays a mountain for turn. He taps the One Ring to draw 3. John curses his life at the deal he made with Tyler, and thinks about how he can best set up without winning this turn. John casts Mana Vault, Vivi and Remora trigger. Tyler draws, and each opponent takes 1, and Vivi gets a 1/1 counter. John then casts Niv Mizzet Visionary. Ledger Shredder triggers, and Cammy connives Hullbreaker Horde into her grave, getting a +1/+1 counter. The table realizes John can now do almost anything with Vivi, and he starts storming. John casts Jeweled Amulet, Vivi and Remora trigger. Tyler draws, and then each opponent takes 1, and Vivi gets a 1/1 counter. Niv Mizzet triggers to draw 3 cards. John then casts Sigil of Sleep, targeting Vivi. Vivi and Remora trigger. Tyler draws, and then each opponent takes 1, and Vivi gets a 1/1 counter. Niv Mizzet triggers to draw 3 cards. Sigil then resolves. John activates Vivi's ability to add 4 blue and 2 red mana. He spends 1 blue on a Chain of Vapor, targeting his own Mana Vault. Vivi and Remora trigger. Tyler draws, then each opponent takes 1, and Vivi gets a 1/1 counter. Sigil and Niv trigger, John draws 3, and then bounces some creatures back to his opponent's hands. Chain of Vapor resolves, bouncing Mana Vault. He continues the chain, sacrificing lands to bounce Mox Opal and Mox Diamond to his hand. He then stops the chain. John casts Mana Vault. Vivi and Remora trigger. Tyler draws, then each opponent takes 1, Vivi gets a 1/1 counter. Sigil and Niv trigger, John draws 3, and bounces a creature of Dan's. John casts Mox Opal. Vivi and Remora trigger. John draws, each opponent takes 1, Vivi gets a 1/1 counter. Sigil and Niv trigger, John draws 3, and bounces a creature of Dan's. John casts Lotus Petal. Vivi and Remora trigger. Tyler draws, then each opponent takes 1, Vivi gets a 1/1 counter. Sigil and Niv trigger, John draws 3, and bounces a creature of Dan's. John casts Mox Diamond. Vivi and Remora trigger. Tyler draws, then each opponent takes 1, and Vivi gets a 1/1 counter. Sigil and Niv trigger, John draws 3, and bounces a creature of Dan's back to his hand. Mox Diamond enters, and John discards Wooded Foothills. John casts Displacer Kitten. John spends 3 on a Burgi, God of Storytelling. He then casts a Gamble. Displacer Kitten triggers, targeting Vivi. Burgi triggers, Remora triggers, Tyler draws, each opponent takes 1, Vivi gets a 1/1 counter. Sigil and Niv Mizzet trigger, John draws 3 cards and bounces the last creature of Dan's back to hand. John makes a red mana, and then Vivi is flickered with Displacer Kitten. Gamble resolves, and John searches up a card to hand and then randomly discards a card. John casts Rite of Flame. Displacer Kitten triggers targeting Mana Vault. Burgi, Vivi, and Remora all trigger. Tyler draws, then each opponent takes 1, Vivi gets a 1/1 counter, Niv Mizzet triggers to draw 3 cards, and John makes a red mana. Then Vault is flickered with Displacer Kitten. John casts Hullbreaker Horror. Burgi triggers, and he makes a red. He then casts Snap, targeting Niv Mizzet. Displacer triggers, targeting Arcane Signet. Burgi triggers, Vivi triggers, and Remora triggers. Tyler draws, then each opponent takes 1, Vivi gets a 1/1 counter, Niv Mizzet triggers to draw 3 cards, then John makes a red mana, Signet is flickered with Displacer Kitten, and finally, Niv Mizzet returns to hand, and John untaps 2 lands. John casts Mox Amber. Vivi triggers. Hullbreaker Horror triggers to return Mox Opal to hand. Dan responds here with a Final Fortune. Everybody pauses, and then passes, as Dan is next in turn order anyway. John continues and shows a loop of casting Mox Amber and Mox Opal 13 times, lowering everyone's life total without killing anyone. John casts Valley Floodcaller, and passes the turn, discarding the hand size. The turn moves to Dan's Final Fortune turn. In his upkeep, John casts a Mox Amber to restart the Hullbreaker Horror loop, pinging each opponent down with Vivi until each opponent is dead, and with that, John wins the game. So, what do we learn here today? Any draw can be the one draw a Storm deck needs to win. If you're going to make a deal, add more clauses than you think. If you have any tips for the video, leave them below. Until next time, keep making value plays.
John, I'm gonna do something.
Sure.
Can you tell me you're not gonna win on my turn? Or on your turn?
Sure, yeah.
I'll use this and let you save yours.
Great.
Alright, I'll REB
Yeah.
Neoform.
I'm just here for value, baby. It literally would have to be like I draw Hullbreaker Horror exactly. You know. If you out the Bowmaster here, I will draw you several cards.
Alright.
You know.
I need land so bad.
I know,
so
but
I'll shoot Bowmaster.
I'll fetch in your end step.
John promised he wouldn't win on his turn, but
No.
if he gets that otter,
I don't care.
I get the otter and all the cards that work with it, and yeah. Okay, what can I do that's not winning? That really ruins Dan's life? Let's think. Every spell I cast, Vivi will ping you all for 1, and then Niv will draw 3.
So John's gonna walk away at the end of this turn with like his whole deck in hand, and he'll be like, "Okay, I won't win."
I have no maximum hand size.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, what are you trying to do? What, are you gonna put us all at 1 and then cast something on Dan's turn?
Yeah.
You're good, Mystic. Ping, ping,
I'm
ping.
telling you, he's gonna get that damn otter, and then on my turn,
bounce
Oh,
this to hand.
100%.
Trigger. A bunch of stuff. Hullbreaker Horror will bounce this. I'm gonna start a loop of casting.
I'm gonna cast something. I'm gonna cast Final Fortune.
Pass on that.
That's what I thought. Good. John,
Pass my turn.
Can you just do it? Can you just end the game now?
No,
I can play an Oathbreaker. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm going to my end step. Alright, and it will ping you guys here in Dan's turn. Okay.
Yay.
Yay.
Wow.
It's all over.